All right. Good evening, everyone. I want to call the Authority Board meeting to order and ask that you give your attention to this short video.
This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar to allow for public participation and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of safety and belonging. We ask that anyone who wishes to speak does so with civility, respect, and kindness for others. Public speakers will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The chair will call upon public speakers at the appropriate time. Each public speaker is requested to state their name and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Public speakers who wish to speak in person should submit a public speaker card to the clerk. Public speakers participating by Zoom who are wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice on the meeting agenda will be provided to the members. If authors of any written correspondence would like to speak during the meeting, they should raise their hand or submit a public speaker card. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Okay, Terry Ann, will you call roll for us?
Commissioner Armstrong,
Here.
Commissioner Arnrich,
Here.
Commissioner Bernal,
Here.
Commissioner Burgess,
Here.
Commissioner Carlson,
Here.
Commissioner Kelly, Commissioner/Representative Nowak,
Here.
Commissioner Obringer,
Yes.
Commissioner Xavier,
Here.
Vice Chair G,
Here.
Representative Foley,
Present.
Representative Worth.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum. We have Chair Meadows absent and Representative Anderson absent.
Thank you, Terry Ann. All right, the next item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand and join me in the pledge. All right, the next item on our agenda is public comment. Terry Ann, I'll ask you if we've received any written public comment, and also ask if there's anyone in the room that would like to make public comment.
We do not have any public comment, written or verbal.
Okay. All right, seeing no one else. Let's see, we do not have any presentations this evening on our agenda, so we'll move to the next item, which is the consent calendar. Are there any changes or comments from the Authority Board, or does anyone want to pull an item on our consent calendar?
I'd like to pull an item for discussion briefly.
Okay.
Okay, and that item is 6L, Establishment of a Paid Internship Program for the Authority. This is a new item. And I'd like to know, where is the money going to come from for this internship? I guess, Terry Ann, you're the person who wrote the staff report, but we could pay up to $35,000 a year for 1,000 hours at the rate of $35 an hour for an intern. So where is this going to come from? And this is a new item. We've never discussed it before at planning or APC.
Yeah, this is a new item. At this time, we're just establishing the program. This does not account for a budget for an intern. The only one that's currently budgeted in the fiscal year budget is one for the External Affairs Department. So each year, as we evaluate the budget and the mid-year budget, we will be evaluating whether there is a need for an intern and whether we have a budget for the intern. And if we do not, we will not be hiring an intern.
So at this time, we do have one intern in that department, is that right?
We do. We have one that's budgeted, and then we do
Oh, we've got budgeted. Have we hired for that person?
No, because we need to establish the program first before we
Okay,
can
that's
do
what
that.
okay, I got it.
Yeah, and then we do have another opportunity, which maybe Lindy can come up and speak more about, that will not cost CCTA any money.
That's
Except
always
for staff
good.
oversight, but.
You know, and the reason I'm bringing this up is I mean, I could see internships creeping, and if we actually have interns that we're going to be using, I'd like to see them go at least mid-year into the budget, you know, before we hire them. But if it's someone who's free, I'm all for free.
Well, in that spirit, good afternoon, good evening. Part of what prompted this, and thanks to Terry Ann for really taking the lead on bringing it to fruition, was that we were approached by an organization who is leading a pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship program in Contra Costa County for civil engineers. It's the first in the state. It's a federal grant, and it allows students actually at Contra Costa College, at the community college, to have an accelerated program that includes internships over the summer and then helps them to apply and hopefully get into civil engineering programs, bachelor civil engineering programs, at a much more reduced cost, right, than traditional program with a lot more wraparound services. Primarily, they're recruiting from Alameda and Contra Costa County, and they had approached us to support that program. Should we be able to bring on an intern through this program, they will pay for that intern at $20 an hour to work under the projects department for 10 weeks. And so it'll be at no cost to CCTA, other than certainly a little staff time to support the intern and to work on a specific project at the discretion of the projects department. And then, as Terry Ann mentioned, we also budgeted this year for the intern, knowing that Terry Ann was working on this project to work with Mike on the community event series. And we anticipate the cost to that to be about $7,000 to $9,000, depending on hours. So because we will likely only pay them $20 an hour, and we envision it being about an 8-week internship.
Okay, so the first one with the community colleges, I think that's wonderful, because then the students do get experience that can go on their resume and help them to get a first job once they get out of school, whatever that is. So that's absolutely marvelous. I absolutely love that. And so if CCTA pays the wages for an intern, I do want to see this in the budget and the rationale for it. And, you know, I've worked in human resources and I see these things creep, so I just don't want to have it creeping here. So this is just then establishing the position, Terry Ann, that's right?
Yeah, establishing the program, job description, and then the salary as well.
Okay, all right, fine. Now I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We can put it back on the consent calendar.
Okay. Are there any other items on our consent calendar that any member wants to pull or discuss? Okay, looking around, seeing none. All right, so Terry Ann, do we have anyone that has provided public comments or wants to speak on the consent?
We've not received any public comment, written or verbal.
Okay. With that, then, do I have a motion for the consent calendar?
So moved for consent 6 and 7.
Okay.
So moved. I mean, second.
Okay, so the motion was by Commissioner Arnrich, the second was Commissioner Nowak. So Terry Ann, can you please do our roll call vote?
Commissioner Armstrong?
Yes.
Commissioner Arnrich?
Yes.
Commissioner Bernal?
Yes.
Commissioner Burgess?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak?
Yes.
Commissioner Obringer?
Yes.
Commissioner Xavier?
Aye.
Vice Chair G?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously with Chair Meadows absent.
Great, thank you. All right, that moves us into our regular agenda items. The first item is an action item from the Administration and Projects Committee to be presented by Terry Ann, seeking approval of the Sixth Amendment to the Employment Agreement with the Executive Director Timothy Hale.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and Representatives. I'm Terry Ann Grover, the Director of Administrative Services, and tonight I present an item to approve the Sixth Amendment to the Employment Agreement with our Executive Director, Timothy Hale. The Chair seeks Authority Board approval of the amendment, which will adjust his compensation to $409,625.93 per year, effective December 27th. And the term of the amendment will remain for another year through December 27th, 2026. The Executive Committee met on 2 separate occasions in October, and one with Tim and one with the committee itself. And then they also, there was a closed session at the November Authority Board meeting as well, and it was recommended that there be a 4% increase. So this item is to memorialize the amendment in open session and summarize the final action on salary pursuant to the Brown Act. That concludes my presentation. I'll take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Terry Ann. Are there any questions or comments from the Authority Board? Yes, I think, thank you was heard from all of us in all of the past things that Terry Ann described, so. All right, anything else? All right, do we have any public comment on this item?
We have no public comment, written or verbal.
Great, so can I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second. All right, so the motion was by Commissioner Carlson, and the second was Commissioner Bernal. Terry Ann, can you do our vote?
Commissioner Armstrong,
Yes.
Commissioner Arnrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Bernal,
Yes.
Commissioner Burgess,
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak,
Yes.
Commissioner Obringer,
Yes.
Commissioner Xavier,
Aye.
Vice Chair G.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with Chair Meadows absent.
Great, thank you. So the next item is an action item to be presented by Yulian and regarding the annual comprehensive financial report and the auditor's report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2025.
All right. Good evening, Vice Chair and Commissioners. I'm Yuli Chang, Finance Manager for CCTA. I'm pleased to present our annual comprehensive financial report, or ACFR, for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2025. You had a chance to review our June internal financial reports last month, so today I'll focus on the key highlights from the ACFR, covering accruals, debt, pension, OPEB updates, and give a quick overview of the annual audit by Mace and Associates. Earlier this month at the APC meeting, David Alfie from Mace and Associates walked us through their audit process and this year's result. Unfortunately, he's not able to join us this evening due to a scheduling conflict. We do have Whitney Crockett from Mace with us tonight. She is also a partner at Mace and has extensive experience working with transit agencies, including ACTC. So she's here today to share the auditor's perspective and highlight the key takeaways from this year's audit. So the ACFR is our most comprehensive financial report prepared in accordance with governmental accounting standards. It's organized into three sections. Introductory section includes the letter of transmittal, GFOA certificate of achievement, and the organizational chart of the authorities board and staff. Financial section contains the independent auditor's report, management discussion and analysis, or widely known as MD&A, financial statements, and related notes. Statistical section provides historical trends and financial data over 10 years. Together, these sections provide transparency and a full picture of the authority's financial conditions and performance. The ACFR is also submitted to the Government Finance Officers Associations, or GFOA, each year for review. I'm proud to share that we received their Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the 13 consecutive years, a recognition of our commitment to a clear, transparent, and high-quality financial reporting. And of course, we look forward to earning our 14th award next year. The statement of net position is essentially a balance sheet. It shows what the authority owns and owes as of June 30, 2025. Overall, our asset increased by about $3.4 million, largely from continued investment in Measure J capital projects. Our total liabilities decreased by about $31.9 million, mainly due to bond repayments that we made during the year. We did see an increase of about $9.9 million in accounts payable, which is typical at year end since the project invoices are processed but not paid until July or August. Deferred outflows and inflows of resources reflect timing differences for pension and OPEB payments. Since CalPERS always report 1 year in arrears, those adjustments ensure that our statements align with their reporting cycle. You'll notice that our unrestricted net position shows a deficit of $331.8 million. That might sound concerning, but it's actually expected for an agency like ours, and here is why. The authority issues long-term debt to accelerate project for the region, project that ultimately transferred to local jurisdictions once completed. Since we don't own those assets, so the debt remains on our book without the corresponding assets. So the negative net position doesn't indicate financial stress. It actually reflects our unique financing structure and our role as a funding and delivery agency for Contra Costa Transportation's network. The statement of activities shows how we performed financially over the year, what we earned and what we spent. On the revenue side, our sales tax revenue remains strong, supported by steady consumer spending throughout the county. Other revenue, mostly in investment interest, increased slightly due to higher yields, and we also continued receiving federal and state grants to fund our capital improvement projects. A major highlight this year is the refunding of the 2015 A bonds with the new 2025 A bonds. This refinancing generated $7.1 million in net present value savings for the authority. It's a great example of our proactive debt management approach. On the expense side, we continued invested in major transportation programs and local return programs, as well as managing interest on long-term debts. So our operation overall remained financially strong, and our programs continued advancing Measure J priorities, and we do so with solid fiscal discipline. Let's look at some of the key financial highlights for the year ended June 30, 2025. Sales tax revenue totaled $120.1 million, down just 1.3% from the prior year, but still slightly above budget and a sign of resilience in the local economy. Federal, state, and local revenues was $44 million, and $40.8 million was dedicated for capital improvement projects. Administration expenses was $6.1 million, including $2.4 million prepayment that we made toward our pension liability, and $1.2 million for the admin salaries and benefits, all well within our 1% admin cost cap. Program expenditures totaled $59.2 million, and about $21.6 million, or 36.5%, was directly distributed to local jurisdiction for street maintenance and local improvements. On the project investment side, we invested in several major regional efforts, including Innovate 680, $12.7 million for advancing the I-680 northbound express lane, automated driving system or ADS, shared mobility hubs, and some other projects. Iron Horse Trail bike pedestrian overcrossing was $11.8 million, I-680 SR4 interchange improvement, $3.5 million, and I-80 carpool lane gap closure for $3.4 million. Finally, debt service expenditures was $44.5 million, covering both principal and interest on outstanding bonds. All these numbers reflect a strong year of investment in infrastructure while maintaining sound financial stewardship. Notes to the financial statement provides important context and detail behind the numbers, and here are some of the key highlights. Cash investment totaled $134.9 million, and about $113.4 million was actively invested in managed portfolio and LAIF, and $14.4 million was reserved for future debt service. Long-term debt stood at $315.5 million, primarily Measure J bonds. During the year, we repaid $34.9 million in principal. Our pension liability decreased to $1.8 million, thanks to stronger CalPERS investment return of 9.3%, down just up from 6.1% last year. Also, the $2.4 million that we made toward our unfunded pension liability that the board approved back in February. And for OPEB, we now have an asset of $714,000, up $144,000 from last year. It's another sign of healthy funding progress. On net position, unrestricted net position again shows a deficit of 331.8 million, reflecting debt that was used for regional projects that are later transferred to cities and the county once completed. We also managed 21.1 million in total reserves for to help with the future recession and also ensure that Measure J meet its commitments in the future. So looking at the bigger picture, since the start of Measure C and Measure J, the authority has invested about 2.07 billion in transportation improvements across Contra Costa County, including 43.5 million just this past year. Overall, the authority continues to demonstrate financial stability, transparency, and prudent management of public funds. I'll now turn it over to Whitney, who will share the auditor's perspective and provide an update on internal control and any other required communication.
All right, good evening, commissioners. My name is Whitney Crockett, and I'm an audit partner with Mays & Associates, and we are the external independent auditors for CCTA. And I'm covering tonight for my partner, David Alvey, who oversaw the completion of the fiscal year 2025 audit. And really what our role is as the auditor is to come in, conduct an audit over CCTA's financial statements, and then render an audit opinion. So that approach starts with an internal brainstorming session with our audit team. So that includes every member of the audit team. And we discuss potential risks. So we do like a complete risk assessment. And we kind of brainstorm ideas for what we're going to test and how we're going to test it. And then from there, we come up with an audit plan based on those risk assessments. And that audit plan dictates what we'll do for our testing. And there's always room for modification along the way. And then the manner in which we'll test. So our audit is conducted in two different phases. We have one phase that we call like the interim phase of the audit, and that's where we test the internal controls of CCTA. So we're looking at all transaction cycles and testing them for compliance with various policies, and then just looking at supporting documentation and making sure that it's all there. And then we complete the final phase of the audit, and that's after the year-end close, closing the books. And that's where we look at the year-end balances and then the activity that happened during the fiscal year. So what that all boils down to is page 1 of the annual comprehensive financial report. That has the independent auditor's report. And if you read through that, CCTA got an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide. So congratulations. And there's nothing in there indicating a modification or anything like that. So it's a good thing. The last deliverable that's in your packet is something that we call the Memorandum on Internal Controls and Required Communications. So the Memorandum on Internal Controls is where we would document any internal control findings or weaknesses. And if you read through that, you'll see that there's nothing to report to you. So it's just standard language. And then the Required Communications is a required document from my firm indicating any significant estimates, or other significant auditing matters, like if management consulted with other CPAs, or if we had any disagreements with management, or significant adjustments. And there's nothing negative to report in there. The only thing that's mentioned in there is the fact that there were 2 Governmental Accounting Standards Board statements that were effective in fiscal year 2025, which are GASB 101 and GASB 102. So CCTA implemented those statements, but there was no material impact. So we're just mentioning it in the required communications. And then I guess before I end my part tonight, I just wanted to extend a thank you to Yuli and Brian for all their help during the audit. In talking with David, it sounds like everything went really well. So just wanted to relay that message for him. Thank you.
Great, thank you to both of you. That was a very, very well summarized report. So I will turn and ask the board if there are any questions or comments. Diane?
Yeah, and, oh, these aren't numbered, sorry. On the statement of activities, I was just curious on the unallocated pension and OPEB expense. It's a negative, so is that from us doing all of our investments? That's what.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That's why it's just negative, yeah.
It's a good thing.
Good, that's amazing, thank you.
Yeah, I just, yeah, no, it was a good thing, and I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Okay, anything else from board members, commissioners? No? All right, then I will ask if there's any public comment, or if anyone in the room wants to make any public comment.
We've received no public comment, written or verbal.
Okay, then do I have a motion?
I still move approval and acceptance of the annual audit reports for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2025.
I'll second that and thank you and Brian for excellent work as always, and congratulations on the Certificate of Excellence again.
Okay, great. So we have a motion from Commissioner Obringer and a second by Commissioner Nowak. So Terry Ann, you want to take our vote, please?
Commissioner Armstrong,
Yes.
Commissioner Arnrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Bernal,
Yes.
Commissioner Burgess,
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak,
Yes?
Commissioner Obringer,
Yes.
Commissioner Xavier. Aye. Vice Chair G.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with Chair Meadows absent.
Great, thank you. All right, the next item is an action item to be presented by Hisham Noemi regarding amendments to the agreements with AECOM Technical Services and the City of San Pablo for the Interstate 80 San Pablo Dam Road Interchange Project. Hisham?
Good evening, Madam Vice Chair and authority members. My name is Hisham Noemi. I'm the Director of Programming at CCTA. We're asking you today to approve amendment number 11 to our contract with AECOM number 316 to increase the contract value by $2.199 million, roughly, and also to cover out-of-scope items that we uncovered over the past 2 years since we last approved their contract, and also to approve an amendment to our cooperative agreement with the City of San Pablo, who agreed to contribute $220,000, I'm sorry, to cover the amendment, to cover a portion of the amendment cost. I'm going to take this opportunity to give you an update on the project. So I do have a PowerPoint presentation. Thank you, Tarian. So this is one of the remaining Measure J projects that are in the strategic plan that you just approved as part of the consent item. We started working on it a long time ago, and in 2006, the City of San Pablo came and asked us to take the lead on developing the project, which we did, and that project basically had $15 million in Measure J funds, so it was in our interest to help deliver that much-needed project. 2010, we got the environmental document approved, and a year later, we started the design on the project. Given the cost of the project at the time and the amount of funding available, we ended up splitting it into 2 phases. We completed the design for phase 1 and completed the construction on phase 1 in 2018 at a cost about $42 million. And then since 2018 up to like 2023, we were looking for funding to get it shovel ready. So in 2023, we were able to secure state funding, $19.7 million from SB1 to help fund the design and the right-of-way. We matched it with some of our STIP money, about $3.8 million, as well as some Measure J money. We started work on the design and the right-of-way in January 2024. And we're now currently at the 100% design stage, and right-of-way activities are well underway. We expect the design and the right-of-way phases to be completed by June 2027. And if we have the funding at that point for construction, we could start construction several months after that time. So it all depends on whether we're successful in getting construction money. Right now, we don't have any construction money, so we will, as part of this presentation, we'll discuss our funding strategy. on how to get the construction funds. As I mentioned, we phased the project into two phases. The green portion of the project was actually completed as part of phase one in 2018. It included replacing a pedestrian overcrossing that extended across I-80. We actually extended it beyond that across Amador Street to basically allow students to cross the freeway and Amador Street to their Riverside Elementary School. That was a huge safety project. Also, El Portal Drive, you can see it's to the north of the project. We ended up closing this on-ramp and moving it all the way to the north where the rest of the ramps are, tripling the distance between the on-ramp from El Portal Drive to the exit at San Pablo Dam Road. That's important because we really just couldn't replace the interchange without dealing with how close the on-ramps and the off-ramps. The El Portal Drive to the north is just too close. And also to the south, we have McBride Avenue, which is also too close to the interchange. So really, this is a 3 interchange projects. That's why the cost is so high. As part of phase 2, we will be doing the portions that's shown in orange here, which is really the meat of the project. That's replacing the entire interchange, the overcrossing, the ramps, and reconfiguring the interchange to allow for better movement of traffic and, more importantly, to improve safety at this location. This is just some photos from the interchange area. This interchange was built in the 1950s, just beyond its life, basically. It cannot serve the current traffic volumes, and you can see in the left picture that the ambulance is stuck in traffic because of that congestion. More importantly, this is really a safety project, as I mentioned. This overcrossing does not meet current vertical clearance standards, has been hit, as you can see from the photo, multiple times by trucks. And that did cause fatalities, and every time it's hit, I-80 is closed for a long time. So that needs to be dealt with. Another issue is you can see the bridge abutment on the right side, right on the left picture, I'm sorry, right on the travel lane, and that just doesn't give any room for drivers to maneuver if something goes wrong. There is no recovery zone here. And that by itself caused multiple accidents, and there were fatalities because of that. On the bridge itself, there is no shoulder, so bicyclists have to travel in the travel lane. Sidewalks are narrow when they exist, 4 feet on San Pablo Dam Road overcrossing, but in many locations they're missing, they don't even exist. So it's not really conducive to biking or walking. And these are real pictures from accidents at San Pablo Dam Road. You can see that car on fire that hit the bridge abutment. Fortunately, 2 people lost their life there. And you can see also the truck hitting the overcrossing and the impact of that. As I mentioned, part of the problem why this project is so expensive is because we have to deal to the interchanges on both sides of it. And in this case, McBride Avenue exit from westbound I-80 is just too close to the on-ramp from San Pablo Dam Road. That creates a breakdown on the freeway, and a lot of the accidents in that segment are side swipes and rear ends because of the people trying to move in and out of the freeway. So we needed to deal with that as part of this project. Also, because of the weird configuration on the west side of the interchange, you can see a 5-legged intersection here. Left turns are not allowed, but still some people violate the rules and do it. That causes a safety concern. And this is how it would look when the project is done. The interchange itself will be replaced, overcrossing be wider. We will have 3 lanes in each direction, 7-foot sidewalks, and a buffered bike lane. You can see to deal with the McBride Avenue exit issue, if you follow the green highlight, we will be asking basically drivers to exit at San Pablo Dam Road. We're building a one-way access road to the west of the freeway to basically provide them direct access to McBride Avenue. That just eliminates the weaving on the freeway and solves that problem. This is just a cross-section of how it will look. I'm going to skip through some of the slides because they're just too technical. We have several utilities impacted. There are some of the utilities actually run in the bridge, inside the bridge, so these need to be moved. We're still working with them to determine what the project liability is, how much we have to pay. But at least for one of them with East Bay Mud, we signed our settlement agreement where they agreed to fully cover the cost of relocating their own facilities. That saved us about $800,000. We will be coming back to you with utility agreements in the next 2 to 3 months with actual determination of what the cost of the project will be. At this point, we estimate our cost to be about $2 million out of a total of $6 million to move these utilities. As I mentioned, we are asking for additional funding to do out-scope items. 2 years ago, we were hoping we didn't have to redo many of the studies we completed earlier, but unfortunately, because of the amount of time that has passed, Caltrans required us to redo a lot of the studies. Some of them were also new to us. So it's not all bad news. The noise study report that we ended up doing actually saved us $1 million in construction cost, where because of the additional modeling we did, we found out that the existing sound walls just work fine. We don't have to make them any higher. In terms of the right-of-way, we are well on our way to make offers basically to the impacted property owners. 2 years ago, we thought we will have 2 properties where we're going to fully take basically for the project. Through value engineering, we avoided doing that. There are no full takes on this project. And the reason we were able to do that through value engineering, actually, we just heard from the fire marshals 2 days ago agreeing to our exception request for the width of the driveway, which allowed us to save a multifamily building where we don't have to buy anymore. We also were able to keep this large property, which is a storage unit, in business through modification of the project and ensuring we're only impacting the minimum amount. So there will be no full take of this full storage unit. And I mentioned some of the properties we were able to avoid impacting because of the additional noise modeling we did. 5 TCEs were eliminated from the project right-of-way because the sound wall doesn't need to be touched anymore. We tried everything to cut the cost of the project. We're still trying. We're not done. But through value engineering, we were able to reduce, for example, the profile of the overcrossing, to reduce how high the retaining walls needed to be. For example, the same thing with the McBride connector, that one-way access road. And we sought design exceptions whenever we can in order to cut costs. Let's talk about funding, because that's really very important. The design and the right-of-way phases are fully funded at this point at about $26 million. The construction has no funding. It's $134 million. However, we do have a plan on how we could apply and hopefully secure funding for construction. We're in the midst, actually, of preparing the application for the SB1 TSIP program, Trade Corridor Enhancement Program, where we talked to Caltrans. We can apply for $70 million. We also will apply to the Competitive Local Partnership Program. It's another SB1 program. Both our applications are due in November next year. And those 2 fund sources need to be matched, and that's where we have a problem. Without really much Measure J left, the only money we really control is our STIP money in the future. And this will require the board basically to pre-commit our STIP money for the match in order for us to be able to apply for these fund sources. So we're not asking you to commit anything today, but in the future, I expect in the late spring, we'll come back to you asking for that commitment. We need to come up with about $39 million in matching funds. We're also working with WICTAC and the City of San Pablo to secure funding from their STMP program, the Sub-Regional Transportation Mitigation Program. Between all these sources, hopefully we can have a fully funded plan. Of course, there are no guarantee it will be successful, but under the TSIP program, the last 3 times we applied, we were successful. I don't want to jinx it, but hopefully this is a project that's really needed and supported by Caltrans. It's a safety project, so I'm hopeful we'll be successful this time as well. So with that, I think I covered the schedule. We'll be ready, we'll be shovel ready by June 2027, and that's when we will hear back from the CTC on whether we're successful or not. If we are, then we can move forward into construction. If not, I'm gonna have to try again in 2 years after that. Unfortunately, every time we wait, just the cost of escalation, that's $4 to $5 million a year increase per year. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you so much, Hisham. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Yes.
Thank you, Hisham. I can't express how important this project is to West County. For the safety reasons alone, we need to prevent more fatalities. There have been several right in that area, more than what you mentioned, actually. So it's extremely important, and of course, I'm totally behind it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Arnrich?
Yes, thank you. Hisham, thanks for this. Absolutely, Xavier's spot on. First of all, the first phase, that was a really good design. It was really good. The functionality, the on and off, very safe. Its connection ultimately, I call it San Pablo Dam Road, but heading off to Arenda. But from the design point of view, and I agree, this is a pinch point. I mean, it's really a dangerous from a driver behavior point of view. You know, most of the freeway until you get to this section is fairly wide open and you don't have that tunnel effect. But because this section is so old and has been untouched, what we found in the first phase was that Caltrans didn't really have as-built plans, and what they had were, you know, not today's standards. How confident we are, given the history of phase 1 with the potholing, and are we even able to access the areas? Because the fact is, so much of it's on the roadway, even getting there is pretty impossible. Because that information is the basis of the design, which is in turn the basis of the construction cost. How confident are we that we really investigated and spent, and we spent $26 million, or will have, just on design. How much of that is really into that investigative aspect, not theoretical? Because this, again, old area, no evidence of what's there.
Thank you for the question. A lot of lessons were learned from phase 1. I mean, we were digging and finding old road beds, concrete blocks, and because of how old the area is. So this time, actually, just learning from that, we increased the number of borings that we did before we did the design. We looked more strategically on where these borings needed to be. Like when you have foundation, that's where you need to dig, if you can, if the physical limitations allow us to do that. So we're doing that. We now have our quality management plan that we're following. Given the cost of the project, we can have another consultant review the design plans one more time. So we're trying to do, we're spending time on value engineering, but as you mentioned, I mean, what's under the surface is probably poses the most risk to this project. In terms of the funding, the 26 million, the design cost is about 6.6 out of that. The rest is really the right-of-way. So we're trying to work with that budget because we're limited to the budget. I mean, we cannot just dig everywhere because we would never have enough money to do that. So we're trying to be more strategic on where we dig our borings to uncover what's under the ground.
Great. That is a wonderful answer. I mean, you really nailed all of the things that haunted us before, and lessons well learned. Thank you. And
Thank
I
you.
look forward to this coming forward.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Bernal.
Yeah, thank you, Hisham, for your presentation. So obviously, time has added a lot of costs to the project and will continue the longer it takes. I appreciate the value engineering side of it and getting exceptions from fire, not having to buy apartment buildings, things like that is huge, right? And so time is also maybe helping us in that regard. You had mentioned at the Administration and Projects Committee meeting that the design, once completed, only has a certain life, and then Caltrans' new rules next year change that, and we have to go back and redesign and possibly even address environmental issues. So can you maybe speak to that a little bit and what that challenge entails?
Yeah, every October, on October 21st, Caltrans issues a new set of standards. They now do it on an annual basis, and when we asked them about it, they said, well, there are certain things required by law that they have to apply even to their own projects. And unfortunately, what happens, if you bid the project on October 22nd, you have to go back and look at your design plans and update them based on the new specs. So that adds cost. That may cause you to miss deadlines, funding deadlines. We talked about how we can resolve that, because that's not just an issue that affects this project, but all of our projects. Our 684 project is one of them, for example. We just need to figure out on how to deal with it. We suggested to them, maybe we do the cycle every 2 years instead of 1 year, with only limit the 1 year to the things that are mandated by law and leave the other stuff to a 2-year cycle. So we're working on that separately, but that's definitely an issue that may increase our costs. That will increase our costs in the future if we don't deal with it.
Do you see Caltrans being receptive to the idea of extending that out to 2 years as opposed to 1?
Yeah, the people we talk to are, because they have their own project and they're facing the same issues, their shop projects. So we just need to figure out a way that's acceptable to all parties. And we're going to involve our other self-help counties into the discussion to make sure we come to an acceptable resolution on it.
All right, thank you.
Anything else from the commissioners? Looking here, looking there. Okay. Terrian, do we have any public comment, or is there anyone in the room that would like to make public comment?
We have no public comment, written or verbal.
Okay. So do I have a motion for this item?
Rita, you should make that motion.
I move to approve the interchange I-80, San Pablo Dam Road interchange project to execute amendment number 11 to agreement number 316 with AECOM Technical Services for engineering support services. And amendment number 1 to cooperative agreement number 07W.08 with the city of San Pablo.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Xavier and a second by Commissioner Arnridge. Terrian, you want to do our roll call?
Commissioner Armstrong?
Yes.
Commissioner Arnrich?
Yes.
Commissioner Bernal?
Yes.
Commissioner Burgess?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson?
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak?
Yes?
Commissioner Obringer?
Yes.
Commissioner Xavier?
Aye.
Vice Chair G?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with Chair Meadows absent.
Thank you very much, Hisham. All right, the next item is an informational item to be presented by Brandon Hayes to give us an update on the authority's construction program.
All right, good evening, Vice Chair G and Commissioners. I'm Brandon Hayes, Director of Construction, and tonight I'll be doing an informational presentation about the construction program overview. First, before I start, I just wanted to give a big shout out to the previous Director of Construction, Ivan Ramirez. Spent 12 years building the program to what it is today, and I have the privilege of taking it over. So if Ivan's listening out there, a big thank you. I also want to highlight that the picture in the background here is the State Route 4 looking eastbound at the 684 interchange. This is where we're going to have our large Phase 2A and 4 project coming up. So I'm excited the idea of taking a picture here in the same place in a few years, and it's going to have a nice, beautiful bridge going across 680 and really eliminate those short merges we have here, and that'll be really cool. So I'm relatively new here, so I want to give a quick background of myself. So that's 20-year-old Brandon there on the left, working on a design-build bridge in Southern California. So I started out as a heavy civil contractor in Southern California, moved up to the Bay Area to work on the Bay Bridge and other large transportation projects around the Bay Area. After 13 years as a contractor, I moved over to work as a consultant as a director of construction. Also ran projects as a resident engineer and as structure rep as well on those projects. I've been at CCTA about 6 months now and absolutely love this team. And I really think that background of contractor, consultant, and now owner, public side, gives a nice perspective for the program. This is a list of upcoming construction projects we have. So in the next few years, we're going to have 16 projects valued at $630 million. That is the largest construction program we've had here at CCTA. From this list, I want to highlight 10 projects here. This is Smart Signals, Safe Street for All, as well as the mobility hubs. These add up to about $80 million. We will be using our construction management on-call bench that was approved tonight. It was item A on the APC consent calendar to release the RFP to have an on-call bench. So we'll have, after that selection of the procurement, we'll have 5 qualified firms that we'll be able to use on these different projects ranging from 1.2 million to 30 million. And these projects are all over the county. So that on-call is going to give us the flexibility to find out which team has the best resources at that time that's best for the project. And as we select those firms, I'll be back to the board to request approval for those task orders before executing them. Some of the larger projects from that list are the CCTA projects on the 680 corridor. So on the left here is the 684 Phase 2A and 4. I recently did a presentation on that. That's a $180 million project. This middle one's the northbound express lane Phase 1. That's a $160 million project, and I'll be doing a bigger presentation about that next. And on the right, this is CARM, Coordinated Adaptive Ramp Metering, Segment 1 and 3, and that's an $85 million project. And something I want to highlight here, so we're doing the ramp metering northbound 680. We were already working on Segment 1. Segment 3A, we got the funding from MEGA, the federal grant MEGA, to do construction. So on the APC consent calendar, item F was an amendment with WSP. That amendment is because we were able to add that scope, segment 3A, because of the MEGA grant. But unfortunately, we are not the only projects on the 680 corridor happening at the same time. I recognize this is a very busy graphic, but at the top left shows all the different projects. So we have Caltrans and some broadband utilities. Down here shows the limits of all these projects, all within the corridor. And here's a schedule. So we have Caltrans SHOP ramp metering projects. We have the CAPM, which is the Caltrans pavement rehab. We have our projects as well as the broadband middle mile. So this is a major priority for the projects team. So I'm working closely with Stephanie Hugh, and we're working and we have regular meetings with the leaders from all the different projects, coordinating their schedules, their work, making sure we have a plan for lane closures, make sure that we don't dig up and redo any work, and ultimately just minimizing the impact from the public. But this is a major priority for us to make sure that all these projects go as smooth as possible, even though they're so close to each other. We are updating our front-end specifications, contract forms, and adding a pre-qualification. This is for design, bid, build projects. So these will be the forms and the documents that are in every one of those projects. So Theodora, our legal team, is the one spearheading all of this. And this really just clarifies our dispute resolution, claims, scheduling, extra work, processes, timelines, notifications, and just makes them crystal clear on all the projects. And we're also adding a contractor pre-qualification program. And so again, Theodora is helping us with that because it's a little unique for design, bid, build to have a pre-qualification, but we're confident that's going to help us with our contractor selection. We are also updating the construction contract admin guide. It is currently under construction. I thought that was pretty punny. It was last updated 2015, so it does need some modernizing. A lot's changed since then. We also have those front-end specs I just talked about, so we need to make sure it aligns with that. Updating the process, procedures, references, flowcharts, checklists. And ultimately, this is the manual we use on all construction projects when we AAA. So advertise, award, administer. This tells us how to do all of this, so we're spending a lot of time making sure this is done right and that it has a really standardized way of running our projects. We use the CCTA Quality Assurance Program. This is the QAP. Last updated 2021, so it's a really good document. And this allows us to have a consistent quality throughout all phases of the project. So environmental, design, construction. It has the clear expectations, our roles and responsibilities. It also outlines how each consultant does a QMP, a quality management plan. So for example, on 684, Mark Thomas is our CM team. They'll be putting together detailed QMP of how they'll stay on top of the quality through the life, and then we can hold them accountable through that. A highlight kind of towards the bottom is the surface and subsurface investigations. So that last presentation kind of harped on that. That's a big part of our processes now for design. And being the director of construction, I very much appreciate a good, solid design. So I really appreciate this, and it has certainly helped out with the quality of design. We are an owner of choice, and that's something that's a big priority for us. So being an owner of choice, you get lower bid prices and better project outcomes. So how do we do this? Well, one thing at the very top there is we have a goal to pay contract invoices within 5 days of receiving an invoice. That's a top priority for us. We do make that happen, and contractors certainly appreciate that. We also have clear change management, and our new front-end specs also make that even more clear. So when there is added scope, we have a streamlined ways to get change orders executed and get contractors paid for that. We are a partnering agency, both formal, so we'll hire a team to come in and have formal partnering sessions, but we're also going to emphasize the informal in the field and the day-to-day communication. We have a strong escalation ladder of how things can just quickly, with timelines and how they get resolved. It's really well outlined in our construction admin guide I just talked about. And we follow that QAP, and contractors know with this QAP, with better designs, they don't have as much risk, and we can concentrate on getting the work done in the field. And last, we have standardized processes that are from that construction contract admin guide. That's a public document, and it's something we'll use on every project, so contractors know what to expect. CCTA is one of the most innovative construction programs in the country. This is a major, major passion of mine, so something that I'm excited to just continue to push forward. Some of the things we're doing now, we are e-construction, so we're completely paperless, digital inspection, no paper at all, so completely paperless. We do 3D modeling, so at the top right here, that's from Bollinger, and that was a really complicated rebar and this pier cap. We did the 3D modeling to do clash detection, make sure it's constructible, and have a good design before going in the field. On the bottom left, that is the 684 interchange. So we have 3D modeled all 5 phases. we've also gone out there and laser scanned all the existing grades. So both, we have all the existing grades within a 1/4 inch tolerance, it's modeled to within a 1/4 inch tolerance, and through that process, you find a lot of design clashes that we've been able to resolve and work through. That it will certainly help during construction. On the right here, it's actually shown here, it's the purple, this is the flyover bridge. This is the Phase 4 flyover bridge that we're gonna be building. We're using structural lightweight concrete that's very unique. I am finding out more of some other bridges. I just recently learned that in 1950, the Bay Bridge used structural lightweight concrete, which is interesting. But Caltrans is looking at this. It allows longer spans, more flexibility in your design. They've done a lot of testing at my alma mater at UC San Diego. They got a really nice shake table down there. So Caltrans is really liking this structural lightweight structural concrete. I just had a meeting with them last week, but with their earthquake engineers, and they'll be watching this closely, and it's a tremendous value for this project. We also have the coordinated signal infrastructure. That's a smart signal project. So once all those are in, we're able to detour traffic, see what the traffic patterns are, and we can also help move that traffic through more while we're doing freeway closures and detours. Some of the innovation I want to continue to push even further is drones for inspection. So on the bottom left here, that is from a project I did in Moraga a few years ago. So I was actually able to go to the job site, I pre-programmed a flight pattern, I just pushed a button, the drone flew for 15 minutes on its own, taking all the pictures it needs to, and once it landed, I put the photos into a program and it creates a 3D model within a 1/2 inch accuracy. So this picture on the bottom right is that 3D model. And so I was able to cut out and see what that excavation is. You can find out quantities. You can add things here for constructability. A lot of value of having a 3D model and seeing where everything's at, especially from a computer. On the left, from that 3D model, you can turn it into a 2D aerial map. So I had the contractor mark out all the foundation piles here. You can barely see these white X's here. And after that, I was able to overlay the CAD files on it and confirm that all those piles were laid out in the correct spot. And since I was at the job site regularly, all it took was me pushing a button and flying for 15 minutes. I was able to continually check this and get this data through each stage after they poured it, the abutments, checking elevations. And that I caught quite a few things ahead of time that helped the quality and the schedule on that project. So drones for inspection is something we're going to continue to push. We have a really good team for the 684 with Mark Thomas, and we're going to continue to do this kind of stuff. The top right is augmented reality. So we talked earlier about the 3D model at 684. You can go out there with a phone and you can actually see where the bridge is, where it lands, and it just really helps to visualize, figure out what things are. It helps with constructability, it helps with the design. Just a lot of value in being able to see where everything lands in the field before you're really constructing things. We'll also continue we're going to use artificial intelligence. There's a lot of possibilities with specs, submittal review, and just streamlining things. And the smart job sites, also known as smart work zones, we're looking at installing sensors in different places on cones so that it can also connect with vehicles. We can see where the cones are placed, so it helps with updating the maps. So we actually have a meeting tomorrow, and we're going to be working with UC Berkeley and hopefully have a pilot project in the near future to test out these sensors and these cones and see if we can implement it on even bigger. And it's another thing that Caltrans is also interested in and is watching us do. We have alternative delivery methods. So we've already used CMGC, Construction Manager, General Contractor. Progressive Design Build, I'll give a presentation on next. But ultimately, both of these delivery methods allow us to pick contractors off of qualifications. It has the contractor early on during the design phase and has a more collaborative project delivery. And to highlight so Progressive Design Build will be in my next presentation. We haven't done it yet, but that's a very exciting one. CMGC, we have recently done at Bollinger Canyon, and it was very successful. I was lucky enough to go to the ribbon cutting several months ago. I can tell you that's the only ribbon cutting I've ever been to that everybody was happy. The designer was happy, the contractor was happy, the consultant was happy, the public was happy. I mean, that is unbelievable, and a large part of that is because of CMGC delivery methods. So using it, we had increased collaboration, innovation, better risk management, better cost certainty, minimizing conflict and disputes, and higher morale and job satisfaction. That's a nice little bonus on top of it all. So the future is great. We have a bright future ahead. We have multiple delivery methods: design, bid, build, progressive design, build, CMGC, collaborative project teams, continued innovation, high-quality projects, partnering. And I put these in bold because these are ones that are even more important to me, is to maintain that positive public perception using these tools, and ultimately having efficient, lean construction so that we can do more projects with the same amount of money. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions.
Great, thank you, Brandon. Lots of exciting stuff there. So any questions or comments from the commissioner? I'm looking both directions. Commissioner Arnrich.
Brandon, thank you, and I appreciate your enthusiasm. It is an exciting time, and, you know, most companies, most organizations are slow to adopt, and I think this is great. And, you know, the civil engineering profession was slow to adopt BIM, building information, which is that 3D modeling.
Yeah.
It's really expensive to do. But the idea is you spend that money up front and you make your project. Did you just save us $19 million on I-80 San Pablo Dam, where you listed it for $115 million, and Hisham has it for 134? Because I want to celebrate. So who's right? Did he just waste your money?
I mean, I'll take credit.
Actually, the 134 is construction capital and construction management. What he's showing you is construction capital
All right.
only, so.
Just checking.
Don't celebrate yet.
It's the only
so-
number I can actually put my finger on. Okay, that's an easy answer. This is great. So you qualified on our pre-contractor. You know, obviously, state law chokes all of us in many ways, take the lowest bidder kind of thing. And those are the ones that somehow seem to be the ones that always litigate everybody and don't seem to have that quality out there. But this is only on 2 different models. When we're just AAAing a project, bid, build, is that pre-qualification only going to allow us under those other 2 contract models? And if we, for some reason, have to go out to bid on a project where we are not using one of those, is there a distinction there?
So the qualification, the pre-qualification program, that is for design, bid, build. So that will be an objective questionnaire. So that is for design, bid, build. That's why I noted that we're working closely with Theodora, the legal team, because it is different, but we have to set up the questions objectively. So we're working on the best way to do that.
Excellent. Really well done. Looking forward to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nowak.
So I understood, somebody mentioned to me today that some of the shop projects are being cut, the dollars available for shop. Is that going to impact at all the CARM work on 680?
Will it impact the CARM?
Well, shop, part of that ramp metering was initially shop, and then we were on top of that. Is that impacting, is that going to impact our projects at all?
Do you want to take it? Executive
Stephanie's
Director?
standing up in the back there, too.
No, it's not going to
Okay.
impact the CARM project. Yeah, it's committed shop funds. So I think what we're kind of keeping an eye on, though, are the other shop projects in the corridor, like the CAPM projects, the rehab projects. And we actually think that's a good thing because it'll actually delay those CAPM projects out at farther years.
Okay.
Because right now, everything's all stacked. And ideally, what we want to do is do the CAPM projects kind of towards the end. So that way we're just coming through and doing all the repaving in the entire corridor. Like if Caltrans and all these projects really line up nicely, I mean, basically from county line to county line, you're going to end up with basically brand new pavement, striping all the way along. I mean, 680, and that'll be quite frankly it for a while on 680, you know.
Any other? Commissioner Bernal.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation and, you know, the things you're bringing to CCTA. You know, we're always sensitive to the cost of design, construction management, all of that, you know, seems to be a large percentage of the overall project cost. the drone technology is super cool, right? You fly it, you can find things that are wrong, you can overlay. Will that be able to help the number of inspectors or the time it takes to do inspections, thereby potentially reducing the overall cost of the construction management inspection side of things?
I don't know if there's a complete reduction in inspectors, because you do need to have them a certain amount of time. A lot of things are full-time inspection. But I will tell you, there's a huge value in just the quality and the schedule. So in Moraga, I actually found 2 errors that surveyors made. And that's hard, because usually you just build off those survey stakes. That would have saved months and a bunch of time fighting. We had a time that a pile was laid out, that the surveyors put in the stake, it was all good, and someone actually came in the morning without us seeing and moved the stake, so the entire piles were going to be installed differently. So an inspector wouldn't have caught that, but by using the drone, we caught that mistake early on. So I'd say, because I think there'll be schedule savings and quality, you can reduce the inspectors, but I still think we're going to have the same amount of level of effort on how much our inspectors look at, but I just anticipate schedule and just overall cost decreasing with it.
Right, that's great, that's huge. And also, you haven't aged a lot in the last 21 years, or how long, however long it was since you were looking at pictures, so I mean, that's why I didn't mention that.
Thank you.
All right, anything else from commissioners? Questions, comments? All right, seeing none, I'll ask if there's any public comment, or anyone in the room would like to make public comment.
We have no public comment, written or verbal.
Okay. All right, this was informational only, so Brandon, we look forward to a lot of great results based on your presentation. So, and you get to stay put, because you're up for our next item, which is a presentation regarding the release of the request for proposals for project and construction management services for Phase 1 of the I-680 northbound express lane completion project.
All right. Good evening, Vice Chair G.
Is that the new you as you come around?
I'm back, and I am still Brendan Hayes, Director of Construction, and I will be discussing the I-680 northbound express lane completion project Phase 1, and requesting approval to request the RFP for PCM services. And to clarify, PCM stands for... Oh, wow, I like that. Oh, the Project Manager and Construction Manager Services. So a very quick overview of this project. We'll be working on the northbound express lanes. So from North Main Street to the 242, we'll be adding a new express lane. From the 242 up closer to the Benicia Bridge, the dark blue, that's where we'll be converting the HOV lane to an express lane. And a key element of this project right here at the X is the tree braided ramp. So this creates a separated road where the Main Street and Lawrence Way on-ramp comes on, will greatly help congestion. As far as the purpose and need, the main point of this is to reduce congestion, improve travel time reliability for travelers in the corridor. Also on the bottom right here has a good explanation of that braided ramp, and it solves the problem of the bottleneck on the 680. They can go all the way back to Livorno and back up to 24. So the express lanes, the braided ramps significantly help traffic congestion. Project update. Last we provided a project overview in April 2025 board meeting. Since then, our project designer HDR continues preliminary design and anticipates finishing 30% design by June 2026. And a huge milestone we just found out about, and a huge congrats to Stephanie Hugh, is we have completed the PAD phase. So we just got the signed project report and environmental documents a couple days ago, and that's a major milestone for this project. And we'll be able to include those documents with this RFP, which will allow the consultants a lot of information to have a nice quality proposal as well. The mega grant, the good thing is the communication continues, that keeps moving forward, so all good news on the mega grant front as well. So progressive design build, a high overview is we hire a design builder, we bring them on, and HDR has been working on the preliminary design to 30%. The design builder takes over that 30% design, and they essentially work on a time and material basis with our collaboration. So we get input, we work with them, we find out the best ways to do things, and that's all in phase one. And once we're clear on the scope and the risks and the design and everybody's feeling good about where we're at, we work to negotiate a GMP, a guaranteed maximum price. And once we get there, that's where we go into phase two, which is the design builder finishing the design and constructing it. This graph shows the benefits and disadvantages of different delivery methods. So the solid circle is a good thing, empty circle is a bad thing. So on the far left is design, bid, build. As you can see, a lot of empty circles down here. So this is not our preferred delivery method on a project like this. The benefits of it is you do get price competition amongst bidders. You get, you know the price at the contractor selection. But down here, the risk identification, cost certainty, potential of innovation is really poor with design, bid, build. Next is design, build. That has some challenges. We've seen that at high-speed rail of locking in that price so early on. There's just a lot of unknowns that early on, and it just creates change orders and adversarial relationships and back and forth. And you can see that here, that you also lose a lot of the design influence. There's not a whole lot, you can't have as much stakeholder engagement, and also the risk identification and collaboration is not nearly as good. CMGC, this is a preferred method for us, and you can see the way these circles line up, it's a good delivery method. Same at the top, we don't get the price amongst bidders, but that's because this is qualification based. Unfortunately, we don't even have the option of doing CMGC on state highway system. We only have the legislation to do progressive design build. So that's what brings us to here, progressive design build. And I've even put in yellow the highlights what aligns with CCTA's goals with the stakeholder coordination, innovation, and risk. I did want to highlight the disadvantages on here, which is we don't know the price at bid time. We don't know the price when we select the contractor. We don't have price competition, but that's because we're selecting the contractor off qualifications, which is a big value and it makes sense. To elaborate on the benefits for this project of why to use PDB, number one, we get transparency into their costs. So we get to see what their costs are very early on, and we continue to work with them, and we can see their assumptions and the intents, and that just helps resolve things early on so there's no surprises. We get to maintain a high level of design influence throughout, stakeholder coordination, the industry's excited about it, so lots of competition. Risk identification and mitigation, we'll put together risk registers, we talk back and forth with the design build team, and we decide who's going to take on certain risks, how to mitigate it, and it's a much more productive process than the other ones. We have cost certainty, lots of room for innovation on the design and construction because you're working collaboratively together on that time and material. We get the early contractor involvement during the design, similar to CMGC and the benefits we saw at Bollinger. This one, I'd say, to me, is one of the biggest advantages is the fact that we get to select the design builder based off qualifications. That is a huge value. Early work packages, an example of this, we talked earlier about all the different projects going on at 680. We talked about Caltrans paving. So an example is we realized that there's some sign foundations on this project that would be really nice to get installed if Caltrans does pave a certain area. So even if the project's only at a 70% design, we can still pull out those sign foundations, get them to 100% and have the contractor install those. So the early work packages gives us flexibility of different types of work, which will be really beneficial on a long corridor like this where we have different coordination. And last, having a contract with one design builder. So the traditional design bid build, you have two separate contracts with the designer and the contractor. And designer blames contractor for things, contractor blames designer for mistakes. We get stuck playing the referee in between both of those. So having that contract with one design builder helps that situation a lot. We recognize this is a relatively new delivery method up here, so we've been aggressively training on it. Stephanie Hugh and myself went to a full day PDB training in October 2025, held by DBIA, Design Build Institute of America, and we're going to be working closely with them throughout this. We'll also be going to their April conference, which is for transportation and aviation as well. And we're going to go to Southern California. We're going to set up a workshop, meet up with LA Metro, RCTC, and Caltrans, who all have PDB projects going on, and share lessons learned and best practices. From the training we did with DBIA, I like this really simple definition, saying that a design builder is selected primarily on the basis of qualifications. After selection, owner and design builder collaborate to progressively advance the design and cost model towards a mutually agreeable design concept and contract price. This is saying it's so simple that you're picking the team off qualifications, you're working together with them in a collaborative way, assigning risk, assigning scope, and once everybody agrees on the design and those different allocations, then you agree on a price and you move forward. So this is a very collaborative model, the way it sets up, and that also makes construction a lot easier, where design, bid, build is unfortunately set up to be a bit adversarial. This sets it up so teams can work together. Some projects of PDB in California. So Riverside County Transportation Commission has 2 projects doing PDB. One's the I-15 Express Lane. It's a large, I think, $700 million construction project. They've been very open with us. So we've met with RCTC. They're about a year ahead of us on this process. They're sharing their documents. They're sharing their lessons learned, best practices, very open with us. So we look forward to continually working with them. Caltrans District 12 has the I-5 managed lane in Orange County. District 11 has the Coronado Bridge jump deterrent system. LA Metro has the BRT line, and I'll actually be on a panel with LA Metro in February on a PDB panel. So I'm excited to strengthen that relationship as well. And then VTA BART extension is Silicon Valley Phase 2. There will be some lessons learned from that project. This is an example of specifically highway projects using PDB. So it's happening all over the country, Arkansas, Florida, Kentucky, Michigan, North Carolina, Ohio, Utah, Virginia. I've already adding projects since I made this list. Ryan McClain and I actually just met with Utah DOT, the head of alternative delivery, yesterday, and they've actually finished 3 highway projects. They have 2 more highway in the works and 2 rail projects. So to them, they've said great things about it. Interestingly enough, they actually use PDB to replace CMGC. I thought that was interesting. So they're going to continue with design build and PDB, and they're no longer doing CMGC. But he was very helpful. We're going to continue the discussions. They have some manuals, lessons learned, and I also plan to reach out to these other DOTs as well to continue our knowledge. So I've talked a lot about the progressive design build team. So we need a team that represents us and manages that contract. So that's what this RFP is about. This is the PCM team, and we need a really qualified team that has the PDB experience that's going to lead us through this process. So we're asking a lot out of this team. We need project management, design management, right-of-way engineering, utility relocation, toll system coordination, contract and procurement management. Independent cost estimator is a key player in all this. We're asking for a specialized company to be on the PCM team. So that's a really critical part of negotiating and getting to that guaranteed maximum price. The team will also be in charge of project controls, and then they'll be administering the entire construction. So the construction manager throughout that phase, and as well as project closeout. For the schedule, if approved tonight, we'll release the RFP on Friday. Proposals due January 30th. Interviews in March. Negotiate scope and fee. And I expect to be back in May 2026 to request approval for the PCM agreement. Then we're going to work immediately. Critical path is getting to the RFP. So the PDB RFP, and working to get the PDB team on as soon as possible. So I anticipate coming back in November 2026. Whether that ends up being an RFQ and RFP, we'll work that out with our PCM team, but I expect to come back November 2026 with construction happening from 2027 to 2030. And the funding for this PCM will be through Regional Measure 3, ARM 3, as well as that federal mega grant. So with that, we're seeking approval to release the RFP 25-4 to provide the PCM services for the 680 northbound express lane phase 1. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much, Brendan. Yes, Commissioner Burgess.
This is a really interesting presentation. It's understandable. There are two things that stood out to me, being more of a layperson and newer to these things. But I think it's important to the taxpayers and for people that are paying attention. So the first one was qualifications. Is that something that we define as who's qualified, or is there a standard? How is that qualification? And then I'll have another question.
Yeah, so the PDB team is based off qualifications. The first thing the PCM team is going to help us with is writing the RFQ, RFP, that whole process. We'll also be doing independent meetings. We're doing industry outreach. So ultimately, part of that outreach and that RFP will define the scoring criteria for the qualifications. And then we'll receive the proposals, and based off that scoring criteria, the most qualified will get the contract.
I want people to trust what we're doing. And so if it's not super clear and there's this idea that we're, defining that, it could be an issue. So I'm trusting. The other part of it was, there was the whole chart about the comparisons. And one of them was not the certainty of knowing the numbers right ahead. So has there been any studies, or is there any kind of proof that this isn't making us pay more for a project? Is there a way that we're showing that by doing these things that streamline things and get qualified people, that we're saving time, money, and all of that type of thing?
Yeah, so I'd say what's interesting is the design bid build is the one that has that certainty when you're bidding and what the price is. What that chart doesn't tell you, it doesn't give you cost certainty through the life of the project, and we've seen that. So what Progressive Design Build is, we bring the contractor on. We may not know the cost, but one of the first things we'll do at the 30% design is they'll put together a cost estimate, we'll put together a cost estimate, see if we're aligned, and then you get to 60% and see if you're aligned. Then you get to 90%, and you get to the GMP. Through that process, then you lock that in, and then you have cost certainty throughout. So a good example is Bollinger. We had that GMP negotiation that even though the price went up a little bit, we were able to make sure we secured that funding, and everybody had clear expectations at the GMP and had that cost certainty. It's a lot more challenging when we get the bids at this price, and then the prices go up afterwards through change orders.
Yeah, I recognize that. I just think, especially we're in the time of people will be looking at us even more in the near couple of years, I want to make sure that folks really understand why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and why that's a proven thing. And I don't think people understand that, at the beginning it's this price, but at the very end it's this price. So I just want to, however we tell this story, I think it's important to kind of help people trust what we're doing.
Yeah, the beauty of this is that we agree on the cost before we lock it in.
Yeah.
We don't get that in bid build at all.
Right.
So that's a huge advantage.
So I think that's important to highlight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Like that. Thank you.
Commissioner Arnrich, you were next.
Brandon, I really appreciate your, again, your enthusiasm and in doing this. The question really is, and I appreciate questions. This is an attempt to lock in our cost. When we go to the low bid, we're gonna, it's sort of that rape and pillage. There are law firms, with all due respect, their entire existence is when they see a low bidder in there, they give them a proposal. They work every day for the length of the project to show that contractor how to get even on the low bid by adding change orders, and they get a percentage of it. And when you go through the UC system, my company, we had to quit working for them because it doesn't work. So you never go over your budget.
Now, this wasn't from a skeptical side, it was of trying to help people trust
Absolutely.
why
I think
and how we do
the story
things.
will be so clear on this because you'll be able to update it along the way.
Yes.
Otherwise, right now, we put it out to bid, you go like that, and you go, whoops. You know, and we knew on one of our low bids, we knew what was gonna happen. That contractor was gonna come back and fight us tooth and nail. And so this eliminates that, sort of that reward risk thing. It takes away the risk because everybody there, and you're also getting people and companies that are highly qualified. You know, I mean, truthfully, if we could all say, could I eliminate all the contractors who go after the highest number of change orders? And you can look at those people and you know who they are. And we get stuck with them sometimes. And we do personally on our own entities. So the question I have is, you didn't have the results. I mean, you put the list, the projects, the state ones. Have any of those been completed yet?
So I am working on going through the status of all those.
Okay, that'd be
That's
good
why,
to know.
that's why I did bring up the Utah DOT. So they've had those 3 completed with PDB, and all of them were successful. And we have a really nice article about one of the projects that they had a really challenging community and stakeholders, and they chose PDB because it helped them navigate. And really having the contractor on board and the designer on board and address those concerns, a huge success. So that list, you're absolutely right. So we've started compiling that list. We already have more Utah DOT, but I plan to reach out to all those DOTs, get the updates, and get some more information on how they all went.
Particularly ones I'm after, those two, you know, with all due respect, they got their own rules and they're very different in a lot of ways. But really, the California ones, right? Now, most of those are in the planning process.
Correct, yes.
But I think it would be great to sort of get their updates because obviously for you and your team, it's lessons learned, what experience, how did they do it, so we can have that up. But it'd be kind of nice to know where they're at and
Yeah.
just inform the board in a
Yeah,
anecdotal
absolutely.
way.
Yeah, and our RCTC, we just got the legislation relatively recently. RCTC is the one that pushed that through. So that's why it's new, but it's picking up steam, and it's one of the reasons, so with DBIA, they just recently voted to really encourage and get more horizontal and highway clients involved. So DBIA did that, and the fact that the conference I'm going to is ACEC down Disneyland, and their main panel will be Progressive Design Build, which I'll be a part of. So it's
Excellent.
It's growing in popularity quickly.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burnell?
Yeah, I may have misunderstood when you were mentioning this, but I thought you had said there's going to be another specialized firm that's going to help with the contract price negotiation or checking. Is that another design build firm or?
Yeah, so great question. So the PCM team, we've just asked, so a lot of engineers' estimates are done by engineers and aren't always at the level that contractors bid at not at that granular level. In our RFP, we've said that the PCM team needs to have that independent cost estimator, called the ICE, but we're requesting that it's a specialized firm that has that level of contracting estimating. And so those firms are out there. They're basically ex-contract estimators. So when I say a separate company, it'll still be part of the PCM team. It's part of this RFP, but we've asked for it to be a sub-consultant specializing in cost estimating.
So they're completely independent of a contractor or a design firm. That's their expertise and background, and so
yeah.
that would be what they.
Exactly, yep.
Okay. All right,
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board? Yes, Commissioner Armstrong.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. Going back to the chart where you had the comparison of the different delivery methods, it looked like, you know, the CMGC and the PDB were pretty similar. I mean, it was hard to tell much of a difference at all. But you made a comment that legislation says that you can't use the CMGC on state highways, only the PDB. Why is that?
That's a great question. Executive Director Hale might have more on that, but I'd say that from my knowledge, RCTC was the one that pushed the legislation to get Progressive Design Build. They're doing a lot of design build, so it's kind of natural for them. So why CMGC? I don't know if you have any elaborations on that?
So Caltrans actually passed legislation to have a CMGC pilot program just for Caltrans projects only. There was actually 5 local projects that were included in that list. It was a pilot program. That program actually sunsetted, I think, a few years ago. So CMGC is no longer allowed on the state highway system by locals. Caltrans actually still has the authority to do it on their own state highway system. It's just the locals don't have to do the CMGC on state highway. And so legislatively, we have the authority to do design build and progressive design build. We just don't have the legislative authority. So no one has really proposed legislation to give authority to the locals on CMGC. And this stuff gets, when you're talking about alternative delivery, particularly for locals on the state highway system, it does gather a lot of attention from labor. Because you're bringing labor and you're bringing, CCTA into the mix. And so, for example, like on the progressive design build legislation, it specifically actually says that we have to use Caltrans for inspection for the project. And that was mainly because of the professional engineers in California government, the staff union for Caltrans. They're the ones who really promoted and protected that clause in the bill every step of the way. So it can get contentious, in terms of alternative delivery on the state highway system. It's one of the reasons why, like, we don't have public-private partnership P3, authority in the state highway system as well. Like, Presidio Parkway was the first and probably the last in Caltrans right away. And so there is a lot of, like, it's complicated, it's controversial, but we were really excited that Riverside County Transportation Commission really took the lead and got progressive design build, because as you mentioned earlier, PDB is very similar to CMGC in some ways. And so it really gave us the flexibility to use this alternative delivery method like on this project. So we probably would have preferred to use CMGC, quite frankly, because it does put more, gives the owner more responsibilities to kind of create that marriage between the contractor and the designer, and also the independent cost estimator. But in this case, we kind of we're a little out of touch with the designer, because they report directly to the contractor. But I think, the whole idea about this is everyone's working together collectively, and there's been a lot of success around that, both in Utah and other places, in California.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none up here, I'll ask if there's any public comment, either in the room or from you, Terrianne.
We have no public comment, written or verbal.
And no one in the room? All right, seeing no one, then I'll turn to the authority board and ask if we have a motion to authorize the release of this RFP.
So moved?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so the motion was put forth by Commissioner Nowak and seconded by Commissioner Obringer. So will you do our roll call, please?
Commissioner Armstrong?
Yes.
Commissioner Arnrich?
Yes.
Commissioner Bernal?
Yes.
Commissioner Burgess?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak?
Yes?
Commissioner Obringer?
Yes.
Commissioner Xavier?
Aye.
Vice Chair G?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with Chair Meadows absent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brandon. We're looking forward to it. All right, the next item is for the Planning Committee, which requires a public hearing. So it's going to be presented by Matt Kelly on the 2025 Congestion Management Program update for Contra Costa County. And then after the staff presentation and commissioner comments, I will open the public hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner G. Good evening, CCTA Commissioners. Matt Kelly, Director of Planning for the Authority, here to talk about everybody's favorite program, the Congestion Management Program. So I'm just going to give you a little background on the CMP and explain why we're here. Back in 1990, CCTA was designated by the state to be the congestion management agency for the county. Under Prop 111, all urban counties, those being counties with 50,000 population or more, were required to have an agency designated on their behalf because CCTA existed due to the passage of Measure C in 1988. we were the most appropriate agency to take on that role. And that role involves managing congestion through performance monitoring of the system, by implementing trip reduction ordinances to provide alternatives to the single occupant vehicle, to analyze the impacts of land use decisions by local agencies on the transportation system, and to develop a capital system to support the congestion management. So as you know, we have a growth management program, not to be confused with the guaranteed minimum price that Brandon just spoke of. Our GMP, which has been around a little longer than Brandon's, I think, fulfills most of the CMP requirements. And the reason for that is that back in 1990, when the state was looking to do something to address congestion statewide and also to tie land use and transportation decisions together, they looked at what we were doing here in Little Contra Costa and decided, hey, what they're doing is pretty novel and should probably be replicated to a certain extent statewide. So they used our growth management program as the template for the congestion management program. So therefore, we defer most of our CMP requirements to our activities under the growth management program. So as I mentioned, one of the main roles is to manage our congestion by, and you can only manage it by knowing where it is. So every 2 years, we go out and monitor the CMP network, which is composed of all freeways in Contra Costa County, as well as a subset of our routes of regional significance. And we monitor that entire system, and that includes all the freeway segments and 65 intersections as part of that network for their level of service. And level of service may sound like a somewhat antiquated measure because, as you probably all know, we replaced level of service in CEQA with vehicle miles traveled. However, the state still does require level of service monitoring under the CMP, and there's been no legislation to change that. We also provide guidance to the 20 local jurisdictions on how they are to analyze the impacts of land use decisions on the transportation system. We provide very clear guidelines that cities and their consultants use. There's no surprises. They know what they're getting into when they start a traffic impact analysis, and we use the action plans as the guide for that. And then we serve as the regional coordination entity for the county. So instead of sending all 20 jurisdictions over to meet with MTC on a monthly basis, we do that. We coordinate with MTC on the development of the RTP. We also coordinate with BCDC, the Air District, among others at the regional level on behalf of our local jurisdictions. In addition, we provide a range of technical support and other funding programs to our local jurisdictions in order to support them in their efforts to find alternatives to the single occupant vehicle trips and just to make their cities more multimodal, make the transportation systems work better. So I've got this list of items here, and the reason I've put this list together is because every spring, CCTA staff goes to the Public Managers Association, your town city managers, and ask for contributions for our CMA functions. So it's a relatively nominal fee, but we want you all to know that you are getting a lot back for that nominal fee, and I'll just CCTA. The countywide transportation plan, so implementing the 25-year vision around the county, the OBAG and Safe Routes to Schools grant programs. So that's, every 5 to 7 years, we're administering somewhere around $50 to $75 million in grants that we administer to local agencies who apply. We have Vision Zero guidance that is part of our bike ped plan implementation, so supporting local jurisdictions in their Vision Zero goals. We have our Smart Signals program, so installing over 300 smart signals around the county in every jurisdiction to make your roads function smarter and safer. We have a countywide travel demand model that you adopted a few months ago, ALEC, and that's how all the local agencies analyze the impacts of the land use projects on the system. It's also how we forecast what our plans and programs will look like in 2050. There's a variety of other things, our safety action plans, a broadband plan, EV readiness plan, our Contra Costa Planning Directors Forum. So all 20 planning directors from around the county come to CCTA quarterly to find out about issues related to transportation and housing, things that CCTA deals with, but also a variety of things that are germane to local agencies. So sewer issues, clean water policies, all kinds of things that local jurisdictions are dealing with. We provide a forum for them to come and talk about those here at CCTA. Among a variety of other things. So we just want to make sure that the local agencies are aware of the services and benefits that CCTA is providing. So a little bit more about the CMP and how it ties into the growth management program. So the 5 main requirements of the CMP each have a place in the growth management program where they're fulfilled. So we're required to measure as I mentioned, the LOS for the roadway network around the county. We do that as part of the CMP, but that network is a subset of our action plan routes of regional significance, which falls under the GMP. We have to establish performance measures to evaluate the current and future performance of the multimodal system. We do that through the CTP generally, where we've established service objectives for all modes. And so when we update the action plans, we're out there monitoring the system for various performance measures, and those are, each subregion develops their own performance measures based on their own needs. We develop a 7-year capital improvement program to support our congestion management. The 7-year CIP is in the congestion management program, but it is a subset of our larger project list that we talked about at our board workshop last month as part of the CTP. As I've mentioned a couple times, we need to analyze the impacts of land use decisions on the transportation system. The growth management program has a process for doing that. That's it's relatively simple and clear guidelines for doing that for around the county. And then a travel demand element that promotes alternatives to the single occupant vehicle. As you may or may not know, the growth management program under Measure J required that all local jurisdictions adopted a TSM ordinance. Most of that work is done through 511 Contra Costa, but each city and town in the county does have their own ordinance, that is compliant with our model ordinance that we provide. So what we focused on for this update of the congestion management program, well, one, it's required to be updated every 2 years by the state. So we've focused on addressing changes that have occurred since our last update in 2023. There was no new RTP in the meantime, so we didn't have to kind of reorient our CMP to be consistent with a new RTP. We remain compliant with the existing Plan Bay Area 2050. We, in the spring, monitored the level of service around the county. We'll be sharing that with the Technical Coordinating Committee, the results of that tomorrow. And we also release all of those counts, the synchro sheets to local planners and engineers so they can use that in their project planning. We have also documented our partner agency performance measures. So not only are we documenting the performance measures we use here at CCTA, but the performance measures of our partner agencies. So we've updated the transit agencies' performance measures that they use in their decision-making. We've also received project updates from our project sponsors, incorporated that into the CIP, and we've documented our new ALEC, activity-based travel model, which is it's required for all CMAs to have. Measure J requires it as well. And our staff recommendation tonight is to adopt the 2025 Congestion Management Program. We'll do that under public hearing, and I neglected to mention that will be done under Resolution 25-45-G. And once adopted, we will transmit that to MTC for their concurrence and incorporation into the Regional Transportation Improvement Program. So that is my presentation, and I think we will take questions first before going into public hearing. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Matt. Are there any questions, comments from, yes,
Thank you.
Representative Worth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matt, thank you so much for that report and your incredible work on all this. And I guess as we start to look at developing our, a very robust Contra Costa transportation plan in the next few years, one of the challenges is how do we present to members of our communities that we actually we have ways that we can reduce traffic congestion, whether it's on the freeways or particularly in arterials. And I raise this as the representative of the transit agencies. And is there an effort to look a little bit in a more granular way to say, how could we reduce, for example, traffic congestion on our arterials, having additional resources to implement transit? I'm thinking of the model of the La Miranda and the San Ramon Valley school bus programs, which really were put in place to be able, as a combination of safe home-to-school transportation, but also significant traffic reduction and congestion reduction. So is it kind of your thought to look at ways that we actually could go about, even absent current funding? And obviously, it's all, predicated on future funding.
Yeah, I think, focusing on those arterials is really important for the public. I think the public recognizes to a certain extent that the freeways are generally going to have congestion, and we're doing what we can to target those bottlenecks, but we know that comes back, whereas in our local jurisdictions, programs like the Traffics and the La Miranda school bus program, those have been proven to reduce congestion. One, reduce congestion around schools, but also to reduce vehicle miles traveled, and to really make it safer around schools. And so I think as part of the countywide transportation plan, not only are we going to have to market that, and let people know what it is really doing, but expand that around the county, because, when it comes to reducing congestion, there aren't a lot of ways to successfully do that and be able to demonstrate it to the public. And I think that's a really great way to do that.
Other questions or comments? Jim, did you have something first?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something. I think what you're bringing up, Representative Worth, is a good question, because this is exactly what we're going to try to think about over the next 2 years as we're developing this transportation expenditure plan. Is, I think particularly the first year, so all of 2026 primarily is going to be thinking about a framework, and within that framework, what's the methodology that we're going to use to be able to measure projects, measure return on investment, and what are those strategies that are going to give us the best bang for our buck in terms of reducing BMT, and then also talk about what those strategies actually might look like, and whether it be a transit strategy or a school bus strategy or a TDM strategy, or a complete streets strategy. All of those strategies are now on the table to kind of think about how we're going to really kind of develop this rubrics in which we're going to determine, what projects are going to get funded by this transportation expenditure plan, and programs too. And so a big part of that is hopefully what we're going to do, and we talked a lot about this at the board workshop, is that, by picking different strategies, there's going to be trade-offs, right? There's going to be a lot of trade-offs. And what we're talking about with the TEP team is developing essentially a tool in which we can measure those trade-offs in real time. You know, so like, so if we implement, so for example, like if we implement a countywide school bus program, you know, and let's just assume for a moment that it costs $20 million, that's like a fifth of our revenue, right? Or sixth of our revenue. It's a sixth of our revenue. So do we think if that sixth of our revenue, is that a good investment, right? Is that going to give us the return on investment that we want based on investing $20 million per year in school bus programs? You know, and so those are going to be so we're going to come up with a methodology to kind of weigh these things. The second thing that I'll say is in 2026 is going to be what does the public want and need? You know, and so really going and doing the public surveys, doing that public engagement, and really, as I've been mentioning, the public is going to be the tip of the spear, right, in terms of how we're going to identify and develop those strategies. So, and then we'll kind of trickle down, you know, down to our stakeholders, you know, which the trans operators are in that stakeholder bucket, you know, and then we've got the local jurisdictions, and then we've got all of you, the authority board, right? So we've got 4 separate groups of people that we need to talk to, and we need to figure out what those trade-offs are going to be for those 4 groups, how are we going to prioritize, and how we're going to determine the performance of those strategies, and how we're going to decide how to fund those strategies and fund those projects in the future expenditure plan. And that just gives you a glimpse of what 2026 is going to look like for the TEP.
Tim, that's a great explanation of sort of recap of where we are going to be heading and how we need to do it. And you know what I would also add too, and I really just use those 2 local school bus programs as an example. I think the real opportunity is to elevate the discussion with regarding to our transit agencies and to ask them early on, where do you see the opportunities, and also working in concert with the local jurisdictions and the school districts, because technically it's a different type of transportation. And the beauty about that is you're able to use those buses during the day, you can drive the grandmothers around, and in the morning and the afternoon, the students are on them. So I think that might be really helpful to kind of elevate that so that you're getting, early on input in terms of really looking substantively and creatively about how we could reduce, particularly, as Matt said, the freeways are another challenge, but those arterials are really a challenge for a lot of our communities. And of course, continuing to try to address the freeway congestion, and that's why the feeder programs to BART are so important in terms of getting people, setting it up. So thank you. It's great.
Commissioner Arnott?
Thank you. I was going to say on that last subject, a simple way to put it is the foundation of our agency, and I think the reason why the voters have supported us since back in 88, 89, is really the congestion management tools that we put in place. We have been fighting for the past 40 years almost, 35, 38, fixing bad land use decisions that were never mitigated. So what we said was, you want to participate in this program, your land use decision must demonstrate that if it impacts the transportation network, which is buses, everything, that you'll fully mitigate it. And, some of our regions have done a really good job on that and some haven't. So that's still a core value of this. The state, unfortunately, has disrupted that completely. Our philosophy was based on smart growth. Live, work in your own communities, and stay off the freeways. So the state created dumb growth. So most of us have to eliminate our job centers to build housing. And we've approved 1.6, 1.8 million houses, and nobody's building them. So approval process isn't the issue. But what our foundation here still does, and it's what supports all the programs we have within for our TCPs, is our mitigation programs. That you have to take that development process, but it has changed. Ultimately, you come up with what Amy is talking about is a capital program to help solve those. But what Tim's saying, and I think the world we live in today, is we don't fund things just because we've done it. We fund the best value proposition to get the best result. Might be buses. You know, would you do another BART system in the future? Probably not on that methodology. It's probably the most expensive way you can move people. Are there other solutions? That's the unique opportunity we have. That's the value proposition that our voters, our residents want to see, our taxpayers, because I know what you're doing. We're going to have a bailout for our transportation systems, and it highlights how expensive they are per passenger and things like that. So all of these things are going to come out. What's the most cost-effective way to get the best benefit for that? Our school bus programs have been. They really have been, because of the nature of the tiering. You know, traditional buses, school buses, they pick kids up in the morning and they sit around for hours and they pick them up in the afternoon. But if they can tier the times the school starts between an elementary and a middle school, they can pick both those kids up. So they're pretty busy there. Then the interim, they will do the off-campus events and things like that. So you can make it really cost-effective. But one of the things I want to remember, and although you said you want to get rid of it, it's been a foundation. LOS, level of service, I never want to see that go away. And you know why? VMT obfuscates what LOS tells us. LOS could tell us that an intersection will take 6 to 7 light cycles to get through it because traffic is that bad. VMT can come up with this little modeling. It supports development in an ignorant way. So it has good advantage in that. So the two of those, I personally, from my seat, I'd like to see them remain, because we get different information that informs us about a real world circumstance and a way to advance things to the future. So, a great presentation. Let's go, move forward, but let's keep LOS.
And we did retain a level of service under the growth management program. When we transitioned to VMT, we still retained it, that it should be used for those operational decisions in the cities. So yeah, I agree.
All right. First, I'm going to Commissioner Kelly, and then I'll be back here.
Yeah, I just want to say in this discussion about school buses and other things, that every region in the county is different. So what might work for a certain area by putting in school buses might not work for another area. For example, where I live, a lot of the kids don't go to the local schools. They go to other places. So we might have to think about other solutions. And I just want to make sure that we look at each, region to see what really, really works.
Okay. Commissioner Obringer?
Thank you. I just wanted to say I really appreciated this presentation, and as someone who is still new to this body, it was really good to level set, to bring me back. I know commissioners like you, Noel, you have all this institutional knowledge, but for me, there was kind of a eureka moment about, oh yes, this body is here to help address congestion. And it's helpful to hear this, because as we are going through our affirming fair housing process, the question that I continually get is, well, we're already choked with traffic, so what are we going to do? And I direct folks to our state legislators, but I also say, I don't have an answer, but we could be part of the solution. So, because I never like to say to people, I can't do anything for you, sorry, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel hopeful just in being reminded that that's part of the scope of work and the mission of this organization. So thank you.
Can I just?
Yes, Amy?
Yeah. I just wanted to follow up too on Chris's point about the uniqueness of each community, each sub-region, which is, I think, the beauty about the way we have our transit resources and agencies in Contra Costa County. So each one of those agencies really understands the local communities, where the pinch points are, where the demand is, and what the needs are, and what the potential could be, which I really think is something that we should pursue in terms of, as we talked about, that challenge of congestion in communities. And it's a lot of people's time and lives, and that that it presents a tremendous opportunity for us to go back to our communities and our voters to offer, solutions to those daily commute congestion issues.
All right, anything else from anybody on the authority board? All right, seeing none, then I'm gonna,
Darlene, can I just,
Yeah.
just one
Oh,
more
I'm sorry,
comment? Sorry. Just two things. I want to kind of build upon what Commissioner Obringer and Representative Worth just said. I think I really like what you said, Representative Worth, about flexing the fleet, right? Like, I think these are the types of ideas where we have to think outside of the box and be creative. If we had like a countywide micro-transit program, right? Because that's what school bus programs is. It's basically essentially a micro-transit program. Is you're basically picking kids and going up to school and taking them where they need to go, basically pick up and drop off. And basically what you're doing is you're flexing the fleet, right? So in the morning, before bell times, you've got someone dropping people off at BART stations, right? Going to work. And then after that, they're going and picking up all these students, taking them to school. And after they take them to school, rather than paying them to sit around, because that's what you're doing, that's why it's so expensive, and waiting for that 2 o'clock pickup time, they're out moving people around in the communities, taking people to lunch, taking people down to Walnut Creek, and then basically when 2 o'clock comes, they all go and pick up the people from the kids again from the schools. And then after that, they go back and they pick up people from the BART station and they take them all home, right? So you're taking an asset and you're flexing it the entire day, right? And by having microtransit in smaller vehicles, you can better respond to the demands and needs of the trips during the entire day because they are so dynamic because of the post-pandemic world we live in, right? Everyone's not going in one direction or another during certain times of the day, and so Try My Ride is a great example of that out in East County, and we should have a countywide program of that, in my opinion. And be able to flex this fleet, right? And then I would say that the other thing, and to Commissioner Obringer's point, we talked a lot about this presentation actually on Monday with all staff, and she's exactly right. This is our true purpose in the county. We are the congestion management agency. Measure J is a purpose of that role in the county, right? And so whether we pass a measure or not, we still have this role here in the county to be the congestion management agency, to do the countywide transportation planning. We are the countywide transportation authority. We have a big role in planning transportation in Contra Costa County from all aspects of planning, everything from transit to air mobility to local streets to highways to freeways. We are the steward, right, of the transportation system in Contra Costa County. It is our responsibility to move 1.2 million people and get them to go where they need to go when they want to go. That's our role at CCTA. That is our true mission and purpose in Contra Costa County as CCTA. And I think it's really important because the CMP has been around so long, and approved back in, the GMP was approved back in 1988. In some ways I feel like we have forgotten that role, quite frankly. And so it's really important as we think about the future for the next 35 years. Like, my opinion is CCTA needs to really provide, to your point, Commissioner Obringer, that technical assistance to local jurisdictions. Like, too often do I hear comments of, how am I going to deal with all this congestion and traffic? Well, rather than trying to solve that problem on your own, come to CCTA and we can share with you a number of national best practices around land use and transportation. We can support your local jurisdictions, provide that technical assistance, provide assistance on issues you're all facing in your communities like e-bikes and these fast e-bikes, and all of these local transportation issues. Like, we don't have enough of that right now at CCTA. Our local jurisdictions are not reaching out. Some do, some are better than others. So I think it's really important to kind of really focus, like, we are the transportation authority for the entire county. That's our role in the county. And you all represent CCTA and the county to represent that role, right? And as we think about going out for a future measure, we need to embrace that role here in the county.
Okay, on that inspirational note, is there anything else from the board? All right, seeing none, then I am going to open the public hearing, which is open to anyone from the public wanting to comment. And if any of you would like to speak in the room or submit a speaker card remotely, raise your hand or press *9, and staff or I will call upon you to speak. So anyone in the room would like to speak, or Terry Ann, do you have anyone online that would like to speak?
We've received no public comment, written or verbal.
All right, I see no one in the room getting up. So with that, I'm going to close the public hearing for regular agenda item 9A for the 2025 Congestion Management Program update for Contra Costa County. The recommendation from staff is for the Authority Board to approve Resolution 25-45-G, which will adopt the 2025 Congestion Management Program update for Contra Costa County, authorize staff to make any non-substantive changes to finalize the document, and authorize staff to forward the Congestion Management Program to the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. So do I have a motion for that? Okay. All right. So our motion was from Commissioner Arnrich, second from Commissioner Carlson. Terry Ann, will you conduct the roll call?
Commissioner Armstrong?
Yes.
Commissioner Arnrich?
Yes.
Commissioner Bernal?
Yes.
Commissioner Burgess?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak?
Yes?
Commissioner Obringer?
Yes.
Commissioner Xavier?
Aye.
Vice Chair G?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with the Chair Meadows absent.
Thank you very much, Terry Ann. Okay, we have one last regular agenda item. I do not have a staff person listed, so here she comes. Danielle Elkins, our Deputy Director.
Good evening, Vice Chair G and Commissioners. I'm here to discuss the extension, another one-year amendment of our contract 526 with Advanced Mobility Group. The contract 526 was originally part of our PMO contract. It has, when we separated the PMO from our TDM contract a couple of years ago, to remove 511 and the entities around TDM work, this is the contract that remained that now is just our 511 responsibilities. It is separated from our PMO contract. So what is now still existing within this contract 526 is the TDM program delivery. So the ownership of the 511 soon-to-be Contra Costa brand, soon-to-be CCTA brand, which delivers programs for TDM under Program 17, which is our Commute Alternatives Fund, as well as it receives TFCA 40% funds. They receive money for TFCA to operate the 511 brand, and as well as operating and running the programs that are seasonal commute programs, our traditional TDM programs, as well as operating the walk and roll program for the Trans-Pac region. So here are just some of the programs that are included in our TDM program that AMG helps us to manage. We have, as I mentioned, the walk and roll program that is slowly expanding across the county, has been very successful for our children. They also run the e-bike rebate program across the county, our incentive programs such as Tri-Transit and the 511 Big Win program. They also, under TFCA, operate the Pass to Class incentive program to try and encourage students to ride transit throughout the school year. And all of these programs are possible because of the support from AMG. We are asking for an additional year extension of this contract so that we can take the next year to complete our TDM strategic plan and figure out if our governance model and our delivery model for TDM in the county is still working, and what it should look like in the future, given how much our TDM program is going to likely continue to grow as we look at VMT reduction and how this can be leveraged to incentivize and support our other projects and programs across the county. So this is just to extend the contract for another year, giving them an additional $1.6 million, which is the total of the TFCA funds for the programs that they operate, as well as the Central and East County portions of Measure J 17 funds that they operate for our TDM programs. So this is not, the only parts of our TDM Program 17 that are not included in this contract is the City of San Ramon administers the SWAT region for TDM, and WICTAC administers the West County region for TDM. So our recommendation is to just approve this for an additional year as we look towards what does the future of TDM look like in Contra Costa County.
Thank you, Danielle. Any questions or comments from the board? Commissioner Nowak.
So at some point, I'd love to get a breakdown of the costs of the different programs. I think that's important for us to understand, especially if we're looking at productivity and efficiency of use of dollars. So I would just ask that we get that at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I can share, so the TFCA funds, the breakdown that they receive around $775,000 that oversee all of the 501 brand, the website, the communication, is administering of all the seasonal programs like Big Win Transit, Tri-Transit, Bike to Work Day. And then the Transpac Walk and Roll funds that they receive was the $248,000 to, which they're expanding into more and more schools within the Transpac region. And then the remainder they're receiving for Measure J, which is to fund the TDM programs in Central and East County.
Yeah, I think I meant how much does it cost to run the e-bike program? How much money does it cost to run the Tri-Transit program and stuff like that specifically?
Okay.
Not the whole bunch together?
Yeah.
So that's what I'd like to see at some point. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, I'll ask if there's any public comment, either in the room or online.
We've received no public comment, written or verbal.
Okay. All right. With that, then, I'll close public comment and ask if there is a motion to approve amendment number 3 to agreement number 526 with Advanced Mobility Group.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so the motion was from Commissioner Burgess and the second was from Commissioner Xavier. Will you do the roll call for us, Terry-Ann?
Commissioner Armstrong?
Yes.
Commissioner Arnrich?
Yes.
Commissioner Bernal?
Yes.
Commissioner Burgess?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak?
Yes?
Commissioner Obringer?
Yes.
Commissioner Xavier?
Aye.
Vice Chair G?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with Chair Meadows absent.
Thank you very much. All right, that is the end of our regular agenda items, so we have no correspondence in the agenda packet. Next is the associated committee reports. We have no meeting reports in the agenda packet, but we did have a meeting report from Transplan that you received from Terry-Ann for the December meeting. So that brings us to the authority board and staff comments. As the vice chair/chair tonight, I don't have any comments, so I'll turn to the rest of you and see if there are any additional comments. All right, I'm looking this way, I'm looking that way. Nobody's jumping. That's next. All right, so now we will turn to the ex officio reports, and I will let our MTC chair, Commissioner Nowak, go first.
Yeah, Phil, sorry if I'm falling asleep here, but I started off the morning in San Francisco at 8:30, and so I'm a little tired. One of the things that I mentioned to Tim that's really important on MTC is for us to know that the Santa Clara folks are looking to use the $60 million that had been allocated to the northbound expressway. They're looking to try to get some of that money for themselves. And so I want to make sure that Tim and anybody else on staff is at the January 28th meeting. If it's one of the committee meetings, I'll make sure to let people know. Anyway, that will be an interesting process. Also in January, we will probably, hopefully, be voting on a final decision on the TOC policy, not necessarily related to transportation, but sort of, and I know that's a question for a lot of municipalities, so hopefully we'll have a final decision in January on that, at the same time as the call for projects for OBEG 4, so that's it.
Okay, Representative Foley, do you have anything tonight? No? Nothing? Nothing? Okay. Bart is just in great shape. Okay. Representative Worth, how about you? Anything else? And I'm not missing anybody else, right? Any last, anything before I go to our executive director? All right, Tim, looks like the floor is yours.
I will try to be brief. I know it's late. First step I want to do is introduce our new program manager at CCTA that's going to be stepping in to oversee the Office of Accessibility. Halima Bruja, right there, so you can come up. Come introduce yourself. But just while she's doing all this, she started on December 1st. We're really excited to have Halima here. I know Danielle is doubly excited to have Halima here. But she comes with a lot of great experience, both on the community engagement side, transportation policy expertise, program management. She holds a Master of Public Policy from the UC Berkeley. And she also managed the transportation solutions and transportation systems at San Jose State University. And she also did a lot of important work for BART, including the Not One More Girl program for BART, which is a very important program. And she also helped with MTC and Transform on other accessible transportation programs. So well qualified. We're excited to have Halima here. And I'll give her the floor to say a few remarks.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? I need to get the mic a little bit closer. It's nice to meet all of you. I am really excited to take on this role. When I graduated with my master's from UC Berkeley, one of my goals was to work in government. As an undergraduate student, I was in student government, and I previously served as a commissioner on the Women's Commission in Alameda County, where I live. And so it is great to be here and really ground myself in public service. Transportation is so important, and I'm very committed to making sure that it is accessible, right? It is a matter of life and death for many of our vulnerable communities. Without good transportation, you might not be able to make to your medical appointment, you might not be able to get your groceries. And so I'm really excited to work with this board to make sure that our transportation systems are accessible. Since joining 2.5 weeks ago, I've hit the ground running, and we are working on revamping and looking at some of our accessible transportation strategic plan projects and bringing those back and making sure that we're engaging key stakeholders, agencies and providers, and also working to launch our Accessibility Advisory Committee in February. So you'll be getting a lot of information on things that are coming up on those fronts. So I'm really excited to work with all of you on that. And if you need to reach out to me, I'm happy to share my card and happy to connect with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Halima. We're really happy to have you. Welcome. I'm familiar with some of your past work and very, very happy to have you here at CCTA. So any other comments or questions for Halima? Well, welcome. We're very happy.
Thank you, Halima. Just a few other updates. The Presto program in Martinez finally comes to an end on December 31st. So all of our Presto programs have been basically have outlived their pilot phase or pilot programs, including based on how it's been funded with the Automated Driving System grant. And so the next step is to do program evaluation, understand what we learned, what data we collected, et cetera. I can tell you that in the team, Ryan and Jack, are very much working with Rossmore and Bishop Branch to look for opportunities to continue service. And obviously, we'll bring those updates to the board as appropriate. And then speaking about autonomous vehicles, you may remember the Department of Motor Vehicles had a heavy-duty commercial autonomous vehicle regulation framework that was posted. CCTA weighed in with a number of coalition stakeholders to provide an exception for smaller autonomous shuttles for public transit use, and excited to say that we were successful. And so the draft regulations came out about 2 weeks ago. maybe less than 2 weeks ago. And so we were able to carve out an exception to allow passenger service in heavy-duty vehicles that basically are anywhere from 10,000 to 15,000 pounds and carry 15 people or less, which is huge because it eliminates the potential regulatory barrier that was going to be introduced by DMV relative to, autonomous shuttles, et cetera, for public transit. So we're really excited that CCTA played a big role in getting that exception for the state. And then the other thing is, I want to talk a little bit about money. You may remember this board approved our countywide broadband plan, and we submitted to the California Communications Commission. And we were successful in receiving those grants. There was 4 awards in the state. We ended up getting 2 out of the 4, totaling $15 million. And so we are now officially in the broadband business. And this is really about bringing the broadband to communities that do not have access to it. It's not necessarily focused on low income. It's more, the KPI is more about communities that have less than 10 gigabytes of data service, of internet, and making sure they have access to that service, throughout the entire county. We have developed a map. And what's interesting about the process, though, is, and why it takes so long, is that when we submit the application, there's a protest process in which Comcast and other ISPs can actually protest your grant application in terms of potential conflicts or adding new competition within their service area. And so we had to do, and so obviously the commission does a lot of negotiation and a lot of revisions to the scope of our grant, a lot of brokerage, a lot of brokering, and we got through that process with the help of Ryan specifically. Ryan, I think we revised the grant application how many times? Maybe a dozen times, maybe at least, as we were responding to inquiries from the commission over time. So, and it was a lot of like, hurry up and wait type of, it's like, we need this done in like tomorrow, and so Ryan stepped in and really filled that gap on that project. So really excited about that. And I know this other project is also very important to all of you. Yesterday, Caltrans approved and authorized the funding for the countywide evacuation study. So the RFP is imminent to hire a consultant to perform that study. And then on Mega, I think Brandon already highlighted, but we are extremely close on Mega, very close. We're dealing with very minute comments and formatting and et cetera. And I think we're very hopeful to get this grant agreement executed in the next probably 30 to 60 days. A number of us are going to TRB in DC in the second week of January, so obviously we'll be running the halls and following up on Mega and talking with folks, and so we're excited about that. The last thing, there was a memorandum, the transplant memorandum, and I just want to highlight Ron, Commissioner Bernal. He's coming off our board and moving into the alternate slot, it's sad to see him go in the primary role, and so Juan Benales will be joining us next year as the primary transplant board member. But I know, Ron, you're not far away, and I know you're going to help every step of the way, and you're a longtime friend of CCTA and your city manager role, city engineer role, and everything. So I know you're not far, and I know you're going to be right behind Juan there. So. But just want to acknowledge, thanks for all the support and everything here at as a board member over the last year or so, and filling Lamar. And then lastly, this is our last board meeting of the year. So I just want to say thank you for all the great support that you've provided CCTA and the staff over the last year. As you can see, even from the presentations today, we're continuing to deliver just outstanding work, and it's really because of your leadership and your commitment to staff and CCTA and your dedication. And we're very, very much excited for next year. And I also want to put a huge shout out to staff. I want to thank everyone for all the great work that you've put into CCTA over the last year. It's been a lot of work, a lot of big projects, a lot of big ideas, a lot of patience with me. And I really appreciate all the flexibility, dedication, and commitment and supporting CCTA and the board. And we've got a lot of work to do. I'm excited about next year. It's going to be exciting times as we continue to build on the successes of this year and into next year. And thank you for your leadership, and happy holidays, everyone.
Great. Well, that was a very nice conclusion. I would equally like to wish all of you happy holidays, have an enjoyable time and a safe time. And with that, that concludes our meeting. So this meeting is adjourned at, I'm going to get this right, Newell, 8:30 p.m. Until the next meeting is going to be in the new year on January 21st, 2026 at 6 p.m.